Hey guys, Greg here from LensProToGo, and in this video we're going to be running through the layout of the menus and the setup of the Red Raven. Going right into the menus, you'll notice right away that a lot of the things you're going to need to get to on set are right along this top. Starting at the top left, we have your frames per second. In here you can go and you can choose whatever you want. You can create custom ones, and these will change depending on what resolution you're shooting in. So in 4.5K, we can do up to 120 frames per second. You can also go in and you can change your project time base. So if you want to shoot everything at 48 frames per second, you can set that up in here. Going over, you have your ISO, and same thing in here. You can just scrub from side to side. So we have 250 all the way up to 3200. Next, this NA is actually your aperture. So if you have an EF lens attached to it, you'll be able to choose your aperture through there. We just have a cinema lens, so we're able to do it right on the lens. Next is your shutter angle or shutter speed. And in here you can go in advanced and you can see your shutter angle or shutter speed. So if you want it at 1/80th or whatever, you can type it in and do your own custom one. Next is white balance. And this, again, you just scrub back and forth. If you don't want all of these presets in here, like every 100, you can set it up so you can edit your list here, and you can change it so there's just certain ones to jump back and forth quickly. Next, you have your resolution, and within each of your resolutions, you have some different options. So you have 4.5K, and then you have 4.5K widescreen. So if we switch to that, you'll see it gets a little bit tighter. So when you're changing these resolutions, it's actually cropping in on the sensor. So if we go all the way down to, let's say, 2K, go in here, you'll see it gets much tighter because it's actually using that full 4.5K sensor and cropping in so you get the 2K resolution. Go back out to 4.5K. Next over we have your red code, and this is your compression type. And in 4.5K, the lowest compression ratio we can do is a 3:1. As you can see, the 2:1 is grayed out there. And deciding which compression ratio to use really depends on the type of project. If you're doing something that's very VFX heavy and you need to have a lot of information and you're going to be pushing that footage around in post, then you want to use the least compression possible or the lowest ratio, which is like a 3:1, 4:1. And if you're doing something that is like a talking head where you can get the exposure and nail everything in camera, then you can use a much higher compression ratio. Now back in the menus, we'll dive into this in a little bit. This is just where you can go through and set up some of your project settings, your exposure assist, focus, HDRX, go into your media and all of that. We'll come back to that in a second. On the bottom here, we have your record or playback. So if we go into playback here, there's obviously no clips, but you get all your playback settings and you can run through different clips, mark them, choose in and out points. So when you bring it into the editor, you can change all of that stuff there. You can also change some of your other things because we are shooting in RAW. You can change your white balance right in here. You can change your ISO. We'll just go back to record mode. Next, we have an RGB histogram, and this is really helpful for figuring out your exposure. As you can see on the side here, as we get too dark, we're gonna see those goalposts filling up with red, and that means we've lost some data on the shadow end. And I can't open up wide enough, but it would do the same thing on the highlight end. Those reds would start coming in when we start losing that data. Next, you just have some information about the camera settings and what's going on. So you have if your HDRX is on or off, you have your time code, sync settings, Wi-Fi if that's on. Then we have our SSD, so you can go in here and you can format, eject, see how much record time is left. So it shows you in percentage. Here it shows you we have 28 minutes left at the current record settings. And then we also have the battery life. Again, go in here, you can see the voltage, the amperage, all of that good stuff, and you can turn on and off the camera. And then we have our audio sound. So you can see there is a little built-in mic. So we're getting a little bit of a scratch check. It's not gonna be usable for sure, so you're definitely gonna wanna bring in some other audio, but you can see those levels right there. So going back, we're gonna dive a little deeper into these other menus. Right off the bat, you have your settings, so you can set up your display, your look, camera setup, maintenance, so you can black balance. You can set up custom keys, check out the lens data. Then you have your media, which is the same thing as going down to the SSD. You can go into media and format it. Back, we have playback, so if you click that, it's the same thing as clicking that and going into the menu. Power to turn on and off, set up your HDRX shooting settings, enhanced AF focus if you're doing autofocus on an EF lens. You can also add some shortcuts just to help you get around a little quicker. But like I said, most of the stuff you're gonna need is right on this main page. That's all we have for you guys today. If you have any questions on the menus of the Red Raven or any of the other Red cameras, leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out all the other content we have on the Red cameras, including part 3, where we're actually gonna show you how to rig this camera up and get it into a shooting package. Thanks for watching.